said, "No, your honor, bless your honor, don't say that." I was quite ashamed. I really felt as if I hadn't a right to wear it. Happy blind girl! How merry she was in her exultation! "I see you, father," she said, clasping her hands, "as plainly as if I had the eyes I never want when you are with me. A blue coat." "Bright blue," said Caleb. "Yes, yes, bright blue!" exclaimed the girl, turning up her radiant face. "The color I can just remember in the blessed sky. You told me it was blue before, a bright blue." "Made loose to the figure," suggested Caleb. "Yes, loose to the figure!" cried the blind girl, laughing heartily. "And in it you, dear father, with your merry eye, your smiling face, your free step, and your dark hair, looking so young and handsome." "Hola, hola!" said Caleb. "I shall be vain presently." "I think you are already," cried the blind girl, pointing at him in her glee. "I know you, father! Ha ha! I found you out, you see." How different the picture in her mind from Caleb, as he sat observing her. She had spoken of his free step. She was right in that. For years and years he had never once crossed that threshold at his own slow pace, but with a footfall counterfeited for her ear. And never had he, when his heart was heaviest, forgotten the light tread that was to render hers so cheerful and courageous. Heaven knows, but I think Caleb's vague bewilderment of manner may have half originated in his having confused himself about himself and everything around him, for the love of his blind daughter. How could the little man be otherwise than bewildered, after laboring for so many years to destroy his own identity, and that of all the objects that had any bearing on it? "There we are," said Caleb, falling back a pace or two to form the better judgment of his work. "As near the real thing as sixpence worth of halfpence is to sixpence. What a pity that the whole front of the house opens at once! If there was only a staircase in it now, and regular doors to the rooms to go in at. But that's the worst of my calling. I'm always deluding myself and swindling myself." "You are speaking quite softly. Are you not tired, father?" "Tired?" echoed Caleb, with a great burst of animation. "What should tire me, Bertha? I was never tired. What does it mean?" To give the greater force to his words, he checked himself in an involuntary imitation of two half-length stretching and yawning figures on the mantel-shelf, who were represented in one eternal state of weariness from the waist upwards, and hummed a fragment of a song. It was a bacchanalian song, something about a sparkling bowl. He sang it with an assumption of a devil-may-care voice that made his face 1,000 times more meagre and more thoughtful than ever. "What? You're singing, are you?" said Tackleton, putting his head in at the door. "Go it! I can't sing." Nobody would have suspected him of it. He hadn't what is generally termed a singing face by any means. "I can't afford to sing," said Tackleton. "I'm glad you can. I hope you can afford to work too. Hardly time for both, I should think." "If only you could see him, Bertha, how he's winking at me," whispered Caleb. "Such a man to joke. You'd think, if you didn't know him, he was in earnest, wouldn't you now?" The blind girl smiled and nodded. "The bird that can sing and won't sing must be made to sing, they say," grumbled Tackleton. "What about the owl that can't sing and oughtn't to sing and will sing? Is there anything that he should be made to do?" "The extent to which he's winking at this moment," whispered Caleb to his daughter. "Oh, my gracious!" "Always merry and light-hearted with us," cried the smiling Bertha. "Oh, you're there, are you?" said Tackleton. Poor idiot! He really did believe she was an idiot, and he founded the belief, I can't say whether consciously or not, upon her being fond of him. "Well, and being there, how are you?" said Tackleton in his grudging way. "Oh, well, quite well, and as happy as even you can wish me to be, as happy as you would make the whole world if you could." "Poor idiot!" muttered Tackleton. No gleam of reason, not a gleam. The blind girl took his hand and kissed it, held it for a moment in her own 2 hands, and laid her cheek against it tenderly before releasing it. There was such unspeakable affection and such fervent gratitude in the act that Tackleton himself was moved to say, in a milder growl than usual, "What's the matter now?" "I stood it close beside my pillow when I went to sleep last night, and remembered it in my dreams. And when the day broke, and the glorious the red sun, father." "Red in the morning and the evenings, Bertha," said poor Caleb with a woeful glance at his employer. "When it rose, and the bright light I almost feared to strike myself against in walking came into the room, I turned the little tree towards it, and blessed heaven for making things so precious, and blessed you for sending them to me." "Bedlam broke loose," said Tackleton under his breath. "We shall arrive at the strait waistcoat and muffler soon. We're getting on." Caleb, with his hands hooked loosely in each other, stared vacantly before him while his daughter spoke, as if he really were uncertain (I believe he was) whether Tackleton had done anything to deserve her thanks or not. If he could have been a perfectly free agent at that moment, required, on pain of death, to kick the toy merchant, or fall at his feet, according to his merits, I believe it would have been an even chance which course he would have taken. Yet Caleb knew that with his own hands he had brought the little rose tree home for her so carefully, and that with his own lips he had forged the innocent deception which should help to keep her from suspecting how much, how very much, he every day denied himself that she might be happier. "Bertha," said Tackleton, assuming for the nonce a little cordiality, "come here." "Oh, I can come straight to you. You needn't guide me," she rejoined. "Shall I tell you a secret, Bertha?" "If you will," she answered eagerly. How bright the darkened face! How adorned with light the listening head! "This is the day on which little What's-her-name, the spoilt child, Peerybingle's wife, pays her regular visit to you. Makes her fantastic picnic here, ain't it?" said Tackleton, with a strong expression of distaste for the whole concern. "Yes," replied Bertha, "this is the day." "I thought so," said Tackleton. "I should like to join the party." "Do you hear that, father?" cried the blind girl in ecstasy. "Yes, yes, I hear it," murmured Caleb, with the fixed look of a sleepwalker. "But I don't believe it. It's one of my lies, I've no doubt. You see, I want to bring the Peerybingles a little more into company with May Fielding," said Tackleton. "I'm going to be married to May." "Married!" cried the blind girl, starting from him. "She's such a confounded idiot," muttered Tackleton, "that I was afraid she'd never comprehend me. Ah, Bertha, married! Church, parson, clerk, beadle, glass coach, bells, breakfast, bride cake, favors, marrowbone, cleavers, and all the rest of the tomfoolery. A wedding, you know, a wedding. Don't you know what a wedding is?" "I know," replied the blind girl in a gentle tone. "I understand." "Do you?" muttered Tackleton. "It's more than I expected. Well, on that account I want to join the party, and to bring May and her mother. I'll send in a little something or other before the afternoon, a cold leg of mutton, or some comfortable trifle of that sort. You'll expect me?" "Yes," she answered, and she drooped her head and turned away, and so stood, with her hands crossed, musing. "I don't think you will," muttered Tackleton, looking at her, "for you seem to have forgotten all about it already, Caleb." "I may venture to say I'm here, I suppose," thought Caleb. "Sir?" "Take care she don't forget what I've been saying to her." "She never forgets," returned Caleb. "It's one of the few things she ain't clever in." "Every man thinks his own geese swans," observed the toy merchant with a shrug. "Poor devil!" Having delivered himself of which remark with infinite contempt, old Gruff and Tackleton withdrew. End of section 4.